Hello everyone, welcome back to the Pop Culture Yearbook. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm the real Manos.
Manos, it's good to see you, man. It's been a really long time since we've jumped in our time machine. And the deal, of course, is that the time machine has been in the shop for months and months and months. There's like this fluid link in the Wayback Machine, Manos, that if that thing doesn't have enough mercury, it just we couldn't find any mercury anywhere. There was no mercury. I don't know what happened to all the mercury, Manos, but we couldn't find any.
I don't know either. I mean, there was a fluid leak, and I met myself. I'm actually kind of a jerk in real life. It's really weird.
Yeah. Well, I feel like wasn't it like Future You? Future You is weird.
Yeah, he's really like kind of a. He was really kind of like nitpicky at me, like, dude, don't do this, don't do that. Like, all right, whatever.
Something about things you're supposed to not buy at the grocery store will completely ruin your life. I don't know.
Oh, I know. He was like a parent, like, oh, I know more than you do. I'm like, whatever.
It's good to see you again, folks, for the Pop Culture Yearbook. It's been a good long time since we've done one of these. Last time, it's been so long actually that I don't remember what you talked about last time. I know I did Animal Farm.
It was 40s, right?
Yes.
40-something?
40-something.
I talked about House of Dracula.
Oh, yes, that's right, yeah. Which was the second or third of those movies, I think, that you've talked about on the show.
Correct, yes. I can't remember if I talked about House of Frankenstein. I talked about, I have talked about a Universal film. House of Dracula is kind of weak, frankly, but it's still fun to watch. Even, like, the weaker Universal monster movies are still fun to watch.
Well, I know we've had, of course, plenty of new subscribers since we were doing this regularly, and since we did the last one and then didn't do one for a long time because, you know, the time machine was in the shop. And so what we do on the show is we each pick a thing from a year, and we don't tell each other ahead of time what we're talking about. So each of us will speak independently about a thing that we watched or read or what have you, and we'll kind of educate each other about stuff, or maybe talk about things that we both know about already. One time we ended up picking the same thing. That will definitely not happen this time. But one time we picked the same thing. 1990 Flood, They Might Be Giants. That was really cool. And so sometimes we talk about things that we both end up knowing something about, and it's always interesting to see if that ends up happening. This time we're talking about a year. I want to say this is the first time, so a historical precedent, Manos, the first time that we were talking, I think, about a year that we've talked about before, 1965. Now, the old video's not up anymore because, you know, we had some copyright issues with some of these early on with the way we used to do them, and I'll try to find that file at some point, get it posted. But anyway, in some other way. But 1965, we're back to Manos. And as I always do, I'll mention a few things to provide some historical context about what happened in 1965. First of all, the Gateway Arch was completed in St. Louis. My wife is from St. Louis. I have never actually been up in the Arch myself. She's been up several times, but it is a really cool architectural wonder. Lyndon B. Johnson created Medicare in 1965. The Voting Rights Act was passed that year. Of course, it was also the year that Martin Luther King Jr. led the Civil Rights Movement and that Malcolm X was shot. So, of course, kind of the biggest, most important monumental year in a lot of ways for the Civil Rights Movement. That was the year of the Palm Sunday tornado outbreak. Have you ever heard about this, Manos?
No, it doesn't sound familiar.
51 tornadoes in 6 Midwestern states in the same year killed over 250 people in 1965. Yeah, and I live in tornado country. I'm sure not too far from here, some folks were getting injured and unfortunately killed by tornadoes. We were, of course, hit deep in the Vietnam War right then. That was the year that the Roger 8 probe crashed into the moon, but not before it photographed several sites for the impending Apollo mission. And movies, popular movies that year included Mary Poppins, The Sound of Music, Goldfinger, My Fair Lady, which is incidentally one of my very favorite musicals. I don't know if you've ever seen My Fair Lady, but it is a wonderful film. Music, popular bands that year included, of course, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, the Moody Blues, Tom Jones, and Donovan. I have seen the Moody Blues in concert.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. I mean, you're talking like 40, 50 musicians all on stage together. It's cool. Popular books that year included both Dune and The Man with the Golden Gun. And the top 5... I'm going to start doing comics this way with the show, Manos. The top 5 series of that year by units sold were from 1 to 5. Superman, Superboy, Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, and Action Comics. So DC dominated the entire top 5 spot, and at the time, the top-selling comics were selling in the 500,000 to 600,000 range, versus the 150 to 200,000 range that the top comics sell now. And many more of the top spots, the top 20, were selling closer to that range than below even 200,000-300,000. Of course, more people were reading back then in general. But yeah, top 5 spots. I did not realize that the Superman's Girlfriend and Superman's Pal comics, Manos, sold in the 500,000 to 600,000 range. Did not know they did that well.
I did not know that. I knew they sold well because I knew that Lois Lane, that comic, was around for maybe 20 years or something like that. 10 to 20 years. So I knew it sold, but I didn't know it was top 5 successful.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's some stuff to tell you what it's like being here as Manos and I are now in 1965. And now Manos is going to reveal what he chose from the fabulous pop culture year of 1965. Go ahead, Manos.
All right, this is a show. It's a TV show, and I'd heard about it for years, and I only recently got to sit down and watch it, actually. And I have this box set of Honey West.
Oh, wow. All right.
From 1965, starring Anne Francis and John Erickson. And it is a detective series produced by Aaron Spelling, by the way. And this is an early TV show that he had produced. And it is based on this series of novels from Gloria and I believe her husband's name is, I guess it's not that, Flick. People used to call him Flick. A husband and wife team wrote a series of detective novels about this female detective named Honey West. The first novel, This Gun for Hire, was from 1957, and is about a hard-nosed female private investigator in Los Angeles in the 1950s. And it had grown pretty popular to the point where the ABC optioned this TV series, starring Anne Francis, who's also known for her appearances in like Twilight Zone. She was the woman haunted by mannequins in that one episode, where she woke up in a department store and she didn't know where she came from. And she's also in the Forbidden Planet film with Leslie Nielsen and Robbie the Robot. And wow, what a cool show this is. It's black and white, and it has a really cool it has a cool kind of 60s film art quality to it, even though it's TV. It's a half-hour TV show. And Honey West essentially is a pretty tough detective who she's really a highly intelligent detective. She's very fluent in judo, and she's not afraid to shoot people down, which she does at the show. And she's teamed up. Oh yeah, and she's teamed up with Sam Bolt, who is her partner, and there's a really good chemistry. And this was one of the first TV shows that really featured a female lead in kind of an action series. And if it isn't the first one, I'm not sure. If there is another one before this, I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, nothing's coming to me right away.
And let's see, what they do is they actually have a nice balance, because let's see, Sam actually plays this. He basically works for her. And what I'm very happy was when I started watching this, realizing that the character, they don't really make any apologies for how dominant and tough this character is for the time. This is like 5 years before the 70s, 5 years before the women's movement really got strong, and 10, 12 years before Wonder Woman. And Yeah, the show kind of owns that, and it's very comfortable in its relationship between her and Sam, where they have a really good the actors have a really good chemistry, and they even play with kind of tropes of the man rescuing the woman, because I'm going to compare this a few times to Batman '66, but it's heroes get in a lot of fist fights, and they get captured a lot. She gets captured. He tries to save her, and he gets captured sometimes, and she tries to save him. And they even play around with that as well. Like there's a couple episodes where she's captured, he goes to save her, and she ends up saving herself and him. So it's really clever and thoughtful. And I was really, when I sat down to watch this, I was really delighted how well this show aged. And it's not as hardcore. I've read a few of these. This is actually my wife's copy. She bought this a couple of years ago. And there's actually a comic book series from Moonstone that they recently produced a few years ago when they had the license. Cool thing is Moonstone was also publishing a Night Stalker, Kolchak the Night Stalker comic, and they actually crossed them over, which was kind of awesome. Where they worked together on a case. And let's see, this series, of course, is from the 60s, so it doesn't have like an ongoing story arc. They're all episodic stories, but they're all fun, and it's interesting because you tend to think of a lot of TV detectives, especially in the 70s and 80s, are always solving murders, and that actually didn't always happen. Sometimes they would investigate like insurance fraud, or people like trying to break into. They do this one cool episode where they're hired by a museum to test out the security system. So she breaks in to the museum Catwoman style, and it's filmed in black and white and has a nice stylistic look to it. It's like, wow, this is really like almost like live action Bruce Timm stuff I'm looking at. And yeah, there's quite a bit of that. It's like a less campy Batman '66.
Oh, cool.
Because it does sometimes have very elaborate villains. One villain gets aware of how important she is in security, so he hires a double to kind of screw up her cases. And by the way, that actor actually, you get to see some memorable actors, like Richard Kiel plays a villain in one episode. The guy who was Jaws in the James Bond movies, and Alan Reed actually plays a villain in one of these episodes. Alan Reed is the original voice of Fred Flintstone, and I don't know if you've ever seen him in real life, but
I haven't. Does he look like Fred Flintstone?
He's pretty much Fred Flintstone in modern clothes.
That's awesome.
And he's really cool actually in that episode. So wow, what a great time capsule from this period. The show unfortunately didn't get a second season. There's actually a couple of reasons for that. It wasn't terribly rated, but it was constantly being beat by CBS's Boomer Pile.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's hard to imagine, but Goober Pile was a ratings juggernaut when it came out.
Well, Goober Pile had, it was funny. And it's wild that. So I didn't mean to interject. It's wild to me thinking about I'm thinking about 1965. I think about how early it feels with some stuff, and then how late it is with other stuff. Because the Andy Griffith Show had already been on long enough that it's got spinoffs and.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Well, All in the Family is probably the king of spinoffs. Like when that premiered, I mean, there are shows like years later I realized Good Times is a spinoff in that universe. That's weird. Because it spun off Maude, which was a spinoff of All in the Family.
Well, was Mayberry RFD or whatever that thing's called? Was that out yet by that point?
I can't remember.
Or was that later
when that
even?
came out?
I forget now. It's been a while.
I think it was late '60s. It was in color.
Right.
So I imagine it came in the late '60s, probably '67 or something like that. After I guess Andy Griffith left the show or something.
I thought Gomer Pyle started in color. Maybe it didn't.
No, it started in black and white.
Oh, did it really? Okay, well, it's been forever since I've seen any of that. So anyway, sorry, go ahead.
And all 30 episodes of this show are in black and white, and it just kind of makes the show look cooler, frankly.
I bet.
And it adds the film noir quality to it. I do know that the original creators of the character had this idea that, they're both film noir fans and detective fans, and they thought, I think it was probably Gloria, who came up with this idea of, why don't we take Marilyn Monroe and make her a hard-boiled detective? And that's kind of how that whole thing started. And, let's see, actually, this character actually comes across much more highly intelligent than any character I've seen Marilyn Monroe play. She never played really any tough people, which I thought was kind of a stroke of genius, especially at the time, like the late 50s. I don't think anybody was even thinking about that kind of stuff. I was getting back to ABC didn't renew the show because, it was losing out to Goomer Pyle. And also, they had just scored a deal with the BBC to show The Avengers. And
that makes sense, and that's too much like it.
Yeah, their thinking was, well, The Avengers pretty much like the show, and we barely have to pay anything for it because it's already been produced. We just have to pay the rights for it. So that was kind of... I think The Avengers actually helped kill the show. It may have possibly got a second season if it was lucky enough.
Wow.
This DVD, by the way, is pretty cool. It has all 30 episodes, and it has vintage commercials.
I love it. I love it when Disney, and I have almost nothing that does that. That's really cool.
And I believe these were commercials that were the sponsors of the show, and apparently 99% of them are cigarette commercials.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Well, you know what's really funny? While I was looking up stuff that happened in 1965, I want to say it was Britain, but I forget. I think it was in Britain, if not most of Europe, that 1965 was the year that cigarette commercials were outlawed, but not here yet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating.
And there's also a couple of promos. They did a couple of promos. Let's see. Anne Francis and John Erickson are sitting on the set talking about how awesome the fall lineup is on ABC. And they talk about some of the shows. Some shows I've never heard of. And they also talk about the Flintstones, which is just, I don't know, it's just kind of fun watching them sit and talk about, hey, I heard the Flintstones is really good this year. And I don't know. I love that kind of stuff. This show is really good. There's some. I mentioned they have some guest stars. Dick Clark actually is a villain in this.
Really? See, I haven't seen Dick Clark act that much.
He doesn't act that much.
Because most of the stuff that I've seen him from, of course, later in his career when he was more of a personality.
Mm-hmm. He acted every so often, but this is early in his career. This is still kind of early. In his career. This is 65. So
Bandstand would have been, 10 years after that?
No, before that. And, I can't remember when Bandstand started, but, he was already kind of like a well-known celebrity at that point.
Okay.
He played a evil marketing guy who actually kind of gets into a crooked operation.
He'd be perfect for that, yeah.
And the mysteries, there are little small mysteries here and there, like who's scamming who.
Oh, I didn't know Bandstand started that early. Excuse me. That's the thing I didn't know. Wow, no, that started in the 50s. But he didn't host that early. No, he did. 56. It started in 52, but he didn't host until 4 years after it started. Okay, sorry. I'm caught up now. I didn't know. I thought Bandstand was just a 70s thing. I did not know that. Okay.
Oh, no. All
right.
No, it's much earlier.
I wasn't around, okay? There's gaps. Anyway, I'm learning.
I'm not that old.
I built a time machine so that we could, well, Dan Torrey built it, but we have a time machine so we can learn things. Go ahead.
But anyway, there's nice, twisty, short, these are 20-minute episodes, because it was TV and commercials. They're nice, twisty mysteries if you enjoy, like Agent Carter, or if you watched the Batman 66 DVD like 80,000 times now and are done. Seek this out.
Yeah.
It's the entire series caught up in a pretty inexpensive, it's 30 episodes on this disc. Also, Moonstone reprinted a lot of the novels. This is like 3 or 4 novels right here. And they're a slightly more serious, darker tone, where this one was, sometimes fantastic. Like, she fought a gorilla in one episode.
That is fantastic in more than one way, Manos.
Yeah, I know. I didn't realize that that gorillas, when they fight people, are strangle them like humans. Although, to be honest, like most of the cases she involves herself in the criminals are surprisingly realistic, and God, it's just a fun show. Also, if you don't want to take the chance of buying this, there's some episodes available on YouTube. I've been able to watch a couple online for free, but I would recommend buying this whole box set, if not just for the commercials.
Yeah, you sold me on that. I really want to watch that now. That's the thing I had only vaguely heard of, but I had no idea what it was.
Me too. It was one of those things I've heard of for years, and when I finally sat down and watched, wow, this is even better than I hoped it would be.
It must have really made an impression on people and was obviously canceled prematurely, because I was surprised when you said that it got canceled after its first season, because it's more well-known than that.
Yeah. It speaks a lot to the quality of the work.
Well, especially because 30 episodes, it couldn't have been on syndication, at least not back then.
Wasn't.
I wouldn't figure.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Didn't have the right number. You were supposed to have 3 seasons, I think.
Yeah, you at least the magic number is 100 episodes.
Right.
And there's 30 episodes, so it's 70 short of being. It's probably 70 short episodes of being more well known. If this was 100 episodes, I guarantee I would have grown up on this. I would have watched.
Oh yeah, well it would have been on with Star Trek reruns and Batman reruns and all that stuff that just barely had enough episodes to be rerun.
I know. This is so much better than some shows that did get 100 episodes.
It sounds really ahead of its time. I mean, the thing that surprised me when you were talking is, I love the comparisons you made to 66 Batman, where, the girls can't be in a fight and they've got to be off to the side, especially when they're villains going, get them. But with that, but the other thing I thought of course, because, we're right in the mid-60s, I can't help it, the reason Star Trek wasn't on yet was partly because the network didn't like that the pilot had a female in a major lead role, and you've got that show.
Yeah.
Way ahead of its time. That's really cool.
She's in charge of the detective agency too.
Wow.
Sam is a strong male force in the show, but he works for her, and she pretty much says, we're going to do this case, we're going to do that case. She drives the show. She's not driven by the forces that work here. And she also does get in physical fights and shoots people. There's some really awesome stuff where, she, it starts off right from the beginning with her getting into kind of struggle with these people she's doing a drop-off for a client. And yeah, the show doesn't shy away. Maybe that might have been, one of the problems with the show at the time. Maybe some people weren't ready for it.
Maybe it was too controversial. I've never heard it talked about like that, but I guess I haven't heard it talked about much anyway, so I don't know. It'd be a thing to look into. But one of the things I like about the way you're describing it anyway, I really want to watch it now, is that it sounds like you've just got a really strong lead female character, and they don't even feel the need to talk about it, really. They just do it, and that sounds really cool.
And Anne Francis is so amazing in this show. I would not be shocked if she influenced Black Canary, because I'm watching the show.
Okay.
She's Black Canary without the costume.
Cool.
She's smart and tough and kind of got a sense of humor. She's got a sense of humor.
Good.
She's kind of a wise guy in this. And yeah, it's I'm thinking I wonder if that had anything to do with the current incarnation of Black Canary. I wonder if some of the creators were fans. I don't have any proof. I don't have any interviews or anything like that. What people saying, but I don't know. It definitely falls into that. Anne Francis would have been a fantastic Black Canary. What a terrific actress.
Well, and now that you say that, I never thought about this before, but Black Canary would have been a female-led superhero show that would have made a lot of sense in the late 70s.
It would have. That's a character that has karma paying back big time eventually when it does pay off for her.
Right?
Like,
yeah. Well, like we've now had 3 or 4 different live-action actresses for Black Canary, of all people. Like, I never thought that I would see that. Like, there's some other people, too, that's kind of weird. Like, how many Amanda Wallers have we had now? Like, 9? I'm just kidding. But there have been a lot of Amanda Wallers. Especially when you count voiceover. Wow, there's been a lot of those. But yeah, I mean, Black Canary, you had Birds of Prey, but then you had her in Smallville. And you had 2 Black Canaries in Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
You know, and then now we've had 2 of them in Arrows. I mean, like, there's been a lot of Black Canaries now. It's cool. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay.
That's what I have for the show. If you like detective novels or the series, I'd recommend go seek it out because I'm sure there's a whole generation that hasn't, totally caught on to it.
Yeah, I didn't even know that they made a box set. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to seek that out. That sounds awesome.
Excellent. So that's what I have for my pick.
Yeah.
Logan. What did you come up with?
Well, mine will not be nearly the glowing recommendation yours was, Manos. Sometimes I like to go back in our Wayback Machine and find things that I'm not familiar with and see what I think of them and give kind of my thoughts in a short little mini review on the show. People complain that we don't talk nearly enough about Doctor Who on this show, or on our channel, Manos. And in my scouring for something to do for 1965, I discovered a strange little film that I did not know existed called Doctor Who and the Daleks. I printed this off because I don't have a copy, but I watched it on Amazon Rental, Manos, is how I watched this. And this is a movie starring Grand Moff Tarkin himself, Peter Cushing, as not the Doctor, but a doctor actually named Doctor Who. And what's that?
I think I have that.
Oh dear, I was wondering where you were going and why we were suddenly traveling through your house. I mean, we just got done traveling through time, Manos. I need a break from all this traveling.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Your copy.
Oh, you actually had that. So you've seen this movie?
I have seen it, and Peter Cushing's in it.
Oh, okay, all right. So that's why you have it, is because Peter Cushing was in it. Is that what it is?
Well, no, Lindsay is my wife is a Whovian. So she got it for last Christmas.
Oh, okay, just the way you said that, I thought it was like, of course we have it. Peter Cushing's in it. Anyway, so Doctor Who and the Daleks is a really strange bird because it is a movie that is not set in the Doctor Who universe proper. It is based on the Doctor Who universe and performed well there, I think mostly just because it had Daleks in it, and Daleks were really popular already, and because, Doctor Who had only been around for a few years, and I guess there was this push to try to have like a more family-friendly version so that it could be a little bit more like all accessible. So this is not the kind of sophisticated, I'm just waving this piece of paper around, is this not as nearly as sophisticated piece as a lot of Doctor Who is. Still has some of the same kind of quirky sensibilities, still has some similar humor here and there, but is not nearly as clever as some of the Doctor Who that I've seen. And I should mention, of course, that I'm not familiar with really early Who. I've seen a little bit of classic stuff here and there, have watched a good amount of the newer stuff, but I'm not a Whovian. I'm certainly a casual Doctor Who fan. But this is a thing that I just didn't even know existed, so I thought it'd be interesting to watch it and see what it was like. Did not perform well in the United States because Doctor Who was pretty unknown at that point here. Most people just didn't even know about it. So, you got the name Dalek in, over there. It's like, yeah, everybody's going to see it. Here, nobody knew what that was. And so it didn't really hit even, that target audience very well. But basically, you have this kind of watered-down version of Doctor Who where instead of being a Time Lord, instead of being an alien of any kind, this guy, and again his name is Doctor Who, is, I don't know what his first name is, he's just Doctor Who, everybody calls him Doctor Who, he's just Who. all right. The name means nothing now, but we'll get into that in a second. He is this elderly scientist who is... This feels really heavily influenced by The Absent-Minded Professor to me. Like, it's basically an adaptation of that, but with some Daleks in it. That feels like that's kind of what it is. Where you've got this guy who is a little bit out of touch with reality. He's older. He seems like he's maybe even kind of getting into some senility already, and but he's got this very childlike mind and this very childlike sense of wonder. So he just wants to explore the universe, and that's the one big thing, of course, that he has in common with Doctor Who. With the Doctor. It's really funny because I will accidentally sometimes slip up and say Doctor Who when I'm talking about Doctor Who instead of the Doctor, and this is the one place where I can slip up and be okay because he's actually called that. But anyway, so besides the fact that he has a TARDIS, really the one thing besides that he really has in common with the Doctor is his interest in exploration and this kind of sense of wonder about the universe that he has. But it gets him hugely into trouble because he accidentally ends up taking, well, it's not actually his fault that they end up going back in time, but but that's okay, because plenty of things will be his fault after that, to the point of a little bit of moral questioning about where his heart is by the end of the thing, I think. But anyway, not to read too far into it, because I don't feel like it's a thing where I'm really meant to think about what it's about so much as, look, colorful robots! But anyway, but there's some stuff. So what ends up happening is he accidentally ends up going back in time with some members of his family. So his daughter and her fiance, and then his granddaughter. He's showing them the TARDIS, and just like in regular Doctor Who, it's bigger on the inside, and it travels through time and space. And TARDIS stands for what it does in the show. So I mean, they do borrow a lot of stuff, and a lot of the actual Dalek stuff, and the Falls, I think they're called. A lot of that stuff is borrowed from the original mythology, but again, kind of watered down, or just less complicated. So they end up accidentally going back in time because there's some like kind of slapstick, goofy humor in this, where like she runs in to the TARDIS and accidentally bumps her fiance into the lever that makes them go back in time, and then the whole rest of the movie they act like it was his fault, but she bumped into him and bumped him into it. And there's like there's like a couple of points where it's like you. They don't say this, but it's almost like, you bumbling idiot, you got us stuck back in time. It's like, it wasn't his fault. You're the klutz that bumped into him. Like, it's your fault. Well, anyway, what ends up happening is they go back in time and they find this legitimately intriguing alien planet where everything has been preserved but falls apart when you touch it because of nuclear fallout. And this movie wastes no time. I mean, like, we're in the TARDIS and back in time in like 6.5 minutes. Like, it's really quick getting us into it. And it's a very short movie. It's only an hour 20 minutes. We meet the Daleks like 15 minutes in. The main dilemma of the story has already started to happen about then. So I mean, like it gets us into the action really fast. And then the thing that starts to bog down the pacing is just how long it takes for the Daleks to talk to each other. But anyway, so they find this planet that has been where there was nuclear fallout because of this war that happened bazillions of years ago. Because everything in these kinds of science fiction things have to be like millions and millions of years ago. And in Doctor Who, they find the city that seems deserted, and he is too curious to go explore it. So he claims that this piece of hardware in the TARDIS called the fluid link. You see what I did there? I made a joke earlier about the fluid link. The fluid link, he claims doesn't have enough mercury, and they got to go find some mercury. So he they go into the city, and after they get captured by the Daleks, we discover that there was nothing wrong with the fluid link, and he just wanted to explore, and he was lying to them. And so it's his fault that they get captured, and I kind of thought we might be in store for some sort of a character arc where he'd sober up a little bit and maybe stop being so childlike, and that never really happens. There's this species called, like I said, I think it's the Falls, and they are... and they somehow or rather have contrived this this drug that allows them to live with all the radiation. And the reason that the Daleks are in, and I think this is more or less the way it was done in the original continuity, but I've never seen those episodes. I've just read about them. The Daleks are in their Dalek suits. They're not robots, of course. They're aliens inside of these things that they drive around, and they can never leave their compound because they need static electricity that goes through the floors, and that's how they operate. So they're very limited in what they're able to do. And of course, a lot of the Daleks in Modern Who are far more capable and sophisticated than that. They like fly through the air and stuff. But these, all you have to do, and this happens, is put a piece of plastic under them, and they're done. It's fantastic. Anyway, some of the things that's done with their with some of their instruments is kind of fun. They've got flamethrowers and things, and they sound exactly like the Daleks from the show, except they speak a lot slower than the ones I'm used to. But they might have spoken that slow in the earlier stuff. It's just I've not seen those episodes, so I'm not sure. But when I say that bogs the pacing down, it's not so much just that they talk really slow, but also there are all these scenes where we have to listen to the lead Dalek. See, the lead Dalek is this black Dalek, and he's like really evil looking, so he's like the main one. And then there's these other colored ones, but most of them are blue for some reason. And they keep having these conversations about what their plans are going to be, and kind of ruminating about what they're going to do about things, and we just have to kind of sit through them talking about things. And I mean, they're menacing and they're ruthless, but and there's fun conversations where like a subordinate will be like, am I allowed to give the humans the drug that will keep them from getting irradiated and save their lives? And the answer is no. Let them die. And so some of that's entertaining. But anyway, so what ends up happening is these other beings that the Daleks claim are like mutated and messed up are actually just humans with a lot of glitter on their faces. And I thought there might be something. Again, I kept anticipating something interesting to be done with some of these ideas, and that it wasn't. But I kind of thought maybe the idea was to them, human beings look like these mutated things because their ancestors had this war so many millennia ago that they just don't know what people are supposed to look like and what they looked like versus what they do now. So I thought maybe where we were going is like the Daleks are the mutated ones and the humans are not, but they think that the humans are mutated. But where that breaks down, of course, is that they see people that look like us and they're not repelled or anything. So they don't really do anything with that. But anyway, sorry, were you going to say something?
Oh no, it's just I'm trying to remember because I know the big influence for Daleks, and you may have heard of this. I can't remember which creator on the show, which writer on the show created them.
Yeah.
But they were highly influenced by the Nazis. They were the big inspiration.
Sure. Yeah.
For the Daleks, and of course, you think about 1960s England. That's still a fresh enemy.
Yeah, it's only been 15 years since it was. Yeah. 15, 20 years.
A writer in his 40s in 1960. Yeah, they experienced that.
Well, and they have.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, so they've got that racial superiority thing, and they certainly have that in this, where they pretty much just want to kill the other species because they're there and they're conquerors, and they remember or they know about the war, and so it was never finished. And the Falls just want to be, just want to make peace, and there's like this stalemate forever because, and I think it's a hilarious kind of stalemate because the only reason there's a stalemate is they can't leave a compound because they need static electricity to move around. That's it. If they leave their pods, then they get irradiated and they don't have access to that drug. At first, I was like, why don't why don't the Daleks just leave and go try to steal the drug? Why do they need the humans to go get the drug for them? Because that's what they do. They try to force the humans to help them get the drug. And they end up using the little girl because she's like made friends with one of the Falls to get the drug from them. And then they get the drug and it doesn't work on the Daleks, and there's this somewhat amusing scene where they're like let's give it to the Daleks on this part of the compound, and then you see through this security footage the Daleks just like freaking out and spinning around because it doesn't work. Like, oh well, I guess we can't use that, so let's kill them all. And so they're going to detonate another neutron bomb that will that will create so much radiation that even with their drug they won't be able to survive it. And again, this all happens just because Doctor Who felt the need to go explore. And again, nothing is really done with that, and that's my big criticism of it. I think the situation is cool. I kind of like this idea that he's living this storybook thing. I like that it opens with him reading a comic book, and he's all into this adventure comic, and then the little girl in contrast is reading this science book. This like physics book, and I expected more of this kind of humor because it cracked me up, and it was like one of the only things that made me laugh out loud, besides some of the Dalek stuff. Then her mother in that same scene is reading a book, and they pan across it. Is reading a book called The Science of Science. And I wanted more of that because I thought that was really funny, and you can tell like she's got this bewildered, bamboozled expression on her face, like she has no idea what she's looking at. Is the science of science, whereas the little girl, of course, seems to be as affluent in scientific terminologies and understanding of how the world works as the Doctor is, and even seems to be a little bit more adult than him sometimes. That's another thing that I really wish that we'd run with, this idea that she's a child. But he's more of a child than she is, and maybe even would have to learn from her how to grow up a little bit, especially because she's used as a catalyst in the Daleks' plan, and it kind of cares about these people that the Daleks are trying to destroy. It might have been really cool if she cared about them more than he did and had to get him to sober up a little bit and be a little bit more courageous. He certainly he certainly is proactive in a lot of places. He is, and some of his scientific ingenuity comes to play. So he does stuff, but he's not the Doctor, you know. He's not the leader. He doesn't always have a plan. He's not ready for anything. It's not that kind of character. The other thing I guess they have in common, but it's read differently. I mean it's translated differently. Is the idea that he's not really worried about anything. You have these insane, horrible things that look like they're looming around the corner. Oh, don't worry, everything's fine. But in this, that's more dangerous. It's kind of scary that he's like that. And when you get toward the end, by the third act, and this is where it really kind of started to fall apart for me. I like some of the Dalek stuff at the end with the neutron bomb and all that, but where it starts to break down is the Falls try to make peace with the Daleks because the Daleks have this ruse where they say, we're going to give you food and we're going to be your friends. And I think it's hilarious because the Daleks are very obvious, like it's not even thinly veiled how just totally evil they are. And but you've got this you've got this guy who's their leader who is naive and wants to believe in the best of people, and he has that sort of in common in a way with the Doctor, in that they're not really worried, they're not really afraid of anything, and that optimism is good, but only to a point, because if you're not careful, you can easily be taken advantage of, or you can hurt other people through your lack of responsibility. And so, and again, nothing's really done with that, but it's a commonality I noticed. Well, the problem is, for me, that the only reason that, because one of the leader guy gets killed, the Daleks just kill him. And right after that happens, the Doctor's like, "We're really sorry, Fall guys, that we couldn't help you further. But there's nothing we can do. Bye." And they just get in the TARDIS and they're gonna leave. And the only reason they don't go is because and I don't know why he did this, except he's absent-minded and so whatever. That's a plot point in a lot of places. Yeah. He brings the fluid link with him. So it works fine, but he's pretending it doesn't. And I get maybe the reason he takes it with him is because it's like we have to put the mercury in it or something, but I'm not sure why exactly it's on his person. And then it's really just for a contrived plot point so that the Daleks can steal it from him. And so now he's got to go back. He doesn't realize that he didn't have it, so they go back. And, oh no, I don't have the fluid link. I have to go back. So then he tries to incite the Thals, who are these very peaceful people, they're pacifists, to war. More to get his fluid link than to save their civilization, and that was the thing that kind of bothered me a little bit. I don't mind the idea that he has to prove to them that violence is somewhat necessary. That was okay, but his motivations bothered me a little bit because he's got to clean up his own mess now, and he was just about to just leave them, and I didn't really care for that.
That actually sounds kind of like something he would do, especially early Doctor Who. Doctor Who.
Oh, really?
Become, this is 65, so
yeah.
When did Doctor Who premiere? Like 63 or
I think
something
62.
Like that?
I think
62. From what I know, I have seen some early episodes.
Again, I'm not a big I don't know a lot, but just in the context of this, I thought that was a little bit weird.
A lot of what I've learned about Doctor Who is off of Lindsay. She's the big Doctor Who fan of the two of us, and he really did. He was kind of like he was almost like a secondary character in the show, that even though he was the title character.
Okay.
And he was kind of a little doddering, especially the first one, a little doddering old man, and not always the bravest. It's not until like the late 60s, the third Doctor, that he really starts to form into the heroic character that we know. I can't remember the name of that actor who played the third Doctor, but that's when he got stuck on Earth for a while and started working with the British government. And it was very kind of Avengers influenced, the British Avengers.
Yeah.
This is the second time we've talked about that show.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's going to come up. It was important. It was influential, yeah.
It was highly influential, so there is a little bit of that. Anyway, he had an even funny car and stuff like that. So that's when he became more of kind of a fighter, he will. The interesting thing about Doctor Who is he doesn't fight often. He doesn't enjoy violence, but he is not above manipulating other people to do violence for him.
Wow, okay. Because his big thing was you're going to die if you don't fight. And he actually like manipulated one of them to try to attack him. To prove that at your base nature you're gonna be, and like if you care enough about something you will fight for it. That was his big thing, is if you care enough you'll fight for it. And I don't know, I just thought we were going somewhere early on with this happening, and he felt bad for what he did to his people, but as it went along he didn't get any less bumbling.
Yeah. So
I don't know, I questioned it anyway.
His ethics can be murky sometimes.
Wow, so that's fast. So you're saying he's not that far removed from what it was?
Yeah, he's pretty far removed from what he is today. But
right.
He's kind of done that in recent history.
Yeah.
That kind of
well,
thing.
And I don't mean to not have historical perspective. I just don't know. And just in the context of a movie standing alone, it was hard to really appreciate him at that point, because I was like, well, you should probably go try to like solve this problem you caused. But anyway. But I don't know. He does ultimately. It's not like he doesn't go with them and stuff, and he affects things. And the ending is kind of fun because they can't figure out how to get home, and they get attacked by at the very end Roman stock footage, and that's kind of funny.
Damn you, Roman stock footage.
There was a sequel to this just the very next year called Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD, which doesn't even have Doctor Who in the title. I have not seen that yet. Probably will, because I'm curious to see what else they did with this version of it. So there's two things in this continuity, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, I liked a lot of things about it. I questioned things in that third act, but it was fun to watch. The the Ian character slowly degenerates into a cartoon. At the end, he just kind of starts running around like a wild, crazed cartoon character. But I don't know. It was fun. It is very much feels like a kiddie movie. And then that's partly why that ending is weird too, because it seems like not the greatest message for kids, in a way. And again, I don't even really mean the violence thing. I'm kind of okay with that. We got a little thoughtful there, and especially that this guy would have to tell these kind of less down to earth people when he's been so not down to earth that hey, here's the realism of the situation. I like that, but anyway, so that's Doctor Who and the Daleks. As I said, there's no reason for it to be called Doctor Who. Once you take out the timeline, the Time Lord thing, and you don't have regeneration, I mean, Doctor Who is a lot about identity and stuff. And once you take that out, and also just this mystery of who is this person, who this guy is. His last name is Who. Just so that we can have the title. That's it. So
a lot of Doctor Who fans kind of consider this kind of like a goofy, fun, out of continuity film, not to take too seriously.
I didn't mean to take it too seriously. I just had that thing.
Same way James Bond fans kind of look at Never Say Never Again. It's like, yeah, it's kind of not in the continuity, but whatever.
Yeah, well, the difference is this was blatantly not in the continuity, right? Like,
I believe so. I think it was probably was an attempt to find a large road, maybe worldwide.
Yeah, that was the sense I got.
Because at this point, I'm pretty sure Doctor Who was gigantic.
It was,
and it's the Daleks especially. Daleks were big favorites.
Well, and that's why I was surprised. One thing I was surprised about this was just that the Daleks were so close to what they were. Like that stuff was pretty close, but it did feel like an attempt to just make it more accessible to people. Where it's like we got to make it a human so that it doesn't feel like such a out of left field alien kind of thing. And it did have almost more American sensibilities about it, I thought.
Yeah.
But then
they did get an actor to play the Doctor who who was a name internationally.
Yeah.
He was in the Hammer films at that point and was well known in America.
Yeah, well, and I thought it was a good choice. And the way that like the some of the big science fiction ideas were decent, and I was surprised by that, given that we're like, well, we got to make him a human and that kind of thing. I was surprised that some of those science fiction ideas were there. So I don't know. It reminded me of a lot of other science fiction from the time, and also had a really weirdly kind of James Bondish opening, especially in its mostly in its theme song, and it doesn't have the classic Who theme at all. And also, the Daleks have lava lamps, and I don't know why.
I don't know what it is about lava lamps that pop up in old science fiction.
I wanted more of that kind of stuff in this, because that was just so absurd. Anytime they went that absurd, it got great for me. I just like the Daleks have lava lamps. I don't know why.
They have pet rocks and lava lamps.
Anyway, that's what I got about that. Like I said, I didn't mean to take it too seriously, but when you're looking at a thing that feels like it's for kids, and then you start really questioning the ethics of it at the end, I don't know. There's a reason to question that.
Yeah, I mean there is, and that's always been kind of the interesting thing that the Doctor Who gets thrown in, with other giant TV science fiction franchise, like Star Trek and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there's a very clear ethical separation between him versus Kirk or Picard. I mean, he does things that Kirk and Picard would never do.
Yeah.
And I think that makes him a fascinating character.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But if you're gonna make him for kids, I would make and if you're gonna do a thing that's mostly for kids, I would have gone with a little bit more of a straight laced hero type, or at the very least, well, he's this bubbling scientist guy. He tries to do the right thing, but he has no idea what he's doing, so his sidekicks have to take over. I don't know, and then make the little girl the main character because she was cool.
And also, this is true back then, and actually kind of true all the way through. A lot of his companions have been more mature than he has.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, and also kind of a fun contrast, because it's like you're more down to earth, but you're like centuries and centuries younger than me.
Yeah. I mean, he's around hundreds of years old, and yeah, he sometimes just behaves so like immaturely, and it does kind of go up and down. Like sometimes he does become the mature figure that you need him to be, and then other times he's just like, God, what a weird jerk. I think that's why he's been so entertaining for all these decades, with all these actors playing him. My favorite Doctor is still number 4, and he was the one who played him the longest, actually.
Is that Baker?
He had, yeah.
That's my favorite of the classic stuff. And then Tennant, in my mind, is like the definitive quintessential version of that character. But
he is a close second
to me. I think he's just wonderful. I think if Tennant had played it for 10 more years, nobody would have cared.
Oh, I know. I think Matt Smith did a wonderful job with that.
I liked Matt Smith, but I don't know. And I'm liking Capaldi so far. I haven't watched much of him, but I watched the pilot. The pilot, the first episode of his run, and I liked it a lot. So
I think he stepped into that role comfortably. Like
no problem. Like he'd been playing it for 3 years. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think he's wonderful. I think what's amazing is they've had all these actors play this character, and I think for the most part, it's been fairly successful. I mean, to have so many actors play this one character. And you get a little nervous when they talk about a new one coming out, but then they just jump in and roll with it. It's fascinating.
But then don't the regenerations often end up being the most interesting part?
Yeah, I think so. Because like comic book writers and artists of a particular character, like Batman, for instance, you get to kind of look at the lens. You get to look through the lens of that character and the way it's interpreted, and see what that society is like at the time. And same way with the actor portrayals of these particular doctors, and the way he's like been portrayed from like 62 to present.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you can say that with Bond to a degree.
Yeah. Although it's more blatant because he actually transforms within the series to another actor.
Yeah, that's
where in James Bond it's just like same guy. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, anyway, I know you got to get going, so now that we have fixed our fluid link, we can travel to some more years, Manos, and and I wasn't lying. It was kaput. No mercury anyway. I don't know where everybody's putting all the mercury, but I couldn't find any. So now I'm going to reveal the date we're going to do, or the year that we're going to do for next time. Manos, the year I graduated high school. We're going to go back to 2003. I don't know if we've done 03, but 03 is one of my favorite years for a whole lot of reasons. Second only to 1989. 1989 is my very, very favorite year. But I love 2003, and there are lots of cool things from that year that we can talk about. So we're going to go back to the year I graduated high school, 2003.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's what we're doing next time. I have no idea what I'm doing yet, but I don't know. It's a year. Yeah, 2003!
I'm going to do the VH1 special looking at the 80s.
That's why today I'd like to talk about a different decade because I don't like this thing. So I went to a thing from this year and then talked about, hey, loophole, man.
Yeah. That would be crazy if I did that. But
yeah. Blow my mind, Manos.
There's a couple of things I instantly think I might be able to talk about. I have to make sure they happen in that year.
Yeah, you're amazing. You will immediately go, 03. Yep, I got it. Like, I think that's really cool that you can do that. You got this library of things from particular years where you're like, yep, 03, library.
So that's all I really care about is this stuff.
Well, everybody, thanks as always for watching Pop Culture Yearbook. We sure appreciate it. Manos and I are going to come back as soon as humanly possible, and feel free to send us some mercury so that we can make sure and keep out. No, don't do that. Don't put mercury in the mail. Please don't actually do that. Anyway, thanks for watching, folks. We sure appreciate it, and we will see you again soon. I'm Captain Logan,
and I'm the real Manos.
Bye.